And here is our test pilot today. This is a 2016 Ford Flex, has 181,000 miles on it. Based on my experience, this car has never been detailed. I cannot verify this because this car is courtesy of my next door neighbor who owns a used car lot, and he bought this at the auction, and I shot another video on it, and I wanted to shoot one on cleaning the steering wheel because this is feeling less than, it's looking less than. A steering wheel gets the kind of use that most other components of the car do not get, which is specifically your bare hands that produce body oils. If you're a woman, you probably wear makeup. If you don't, you probably should. Thank you very much in advance. So it's going to endure the vicissitudes, there's my $5 word for the day, the vicissitudes of life, unlike other components of your car. I want to keep it simple. I'm going to use a non-traditional product, which is an off-label use, kind of. So this is fabric cleaned by chemical guys. You can see it's very worn down. As per their instructions, I've diluted this down 20-to-1, which means 1 part concentrate, and you add 20 equal parts of water. Make sure concentrate, which makes this very economical. And the reason it's additionally economical is because I can use one product to clean virtually everything in a car. Vinyl, plastic, rubber, porous upholstery, that could be carpeting, floor mats, cloth, velour, headliners, even car leather. That's a video I just got done shooting. So this is going to make your life super simple. Now this is a Scotch-Brite pad. It has 2 types of cleaning materials. This is a nylon or synthetic scrub pad that's non-abrasive. This is just a sponge. So to make a distinction, this is a heavy-duty one. It's green, it's color-coded. If you're colorblind, read the label. This will say powerful scrubbing. This on the packaging says non-abrasive. So you need to look for something non-abrasive. Now the reason I picked this is because, well, it conforms to my hand. It also conforms perfectly to the surface I'm cleaning. Now this is wet. If you try to do it dry, it's going to remain mostly rigid, especially after a single use. And that is another winning attribute of this, is that it can be reused over and over again for very many applications because you can rinse it out, wring it out, whatever. So I get it first. So first I get it wet, not dripping wet. So if you don't have a tight grip where you can squeeze out of the water, so you'll see that, well, okay, so my left hand in this moment is stronger than my right hand, and there's a few drops, but I'm really squeezing this. If you don't have that kind of strength, just take this after you get it wet, squeeze out what you can, and then wrap it in a cloth like this, and that will remove excessive moisture. The reason you want to do that is because there's this thing called gravity. So as you're working, it's going to drip down if you haven't removed the excess water. Also, if you have excess water, it's going to further dilute down this concentrate. Don't really want that. First thing I highly recommend is you cover the dash with a large towel so that you can protect the components. Not because this product's going to damage them per se, but it's just going to make a big mess that you'll have to clean up. For example, let's say that you're only committed right now because of time, energy, life, whatever, and you just want to clean your steering wheel because it's gooey, it's tacky, it's just gross. And it's time to quit kicking that can down the road. So this will allow you to clean this and contain your overspray. So for example, if you were to spray like this, which I don't actually recommend, but now you can, because that cloth or that towel is going to capture it, which is very fitting for the moment, the American flag. And yes, it's on a towel, not an actual flag. So I recommend you spray this, and then you can wrap this around the steering wheel. Now remember, just because you can't see it, there's a backside here, and that's where a lot of the stickiness will originate from. Your hand typically goes around the whole thing, so you just need to be mindful of that because it's going to be really hard to contort your neck and your head around here to view it. Let me get a fresh cloth and we can see how much dirt comes up with the first scrub. Okay, that's a fair amount. Actually, I thought it would be a little bit worse, but now we're going to come back in and we're going to do a second application because really based on the condition of this car that you aren't privileged to see right now, I'm surprised the steering wheel isn't like filthier, grosser, dirtier. Use whatever adjective you want. So right there, it's like, okay, cool. Now, just as a caution, when you first get any material wet, your hand's not going to slide around it very easily. So you will think like, oh my gosh, there's a residue of the cleaner. I need to wash it off. Well, you could do this, but wait for it. You'll get that same effect even with water. So until it's dry 100%. So the more I talk, the more I touch this, the more the last trace liquid is evaporating. So now it feels like, oh, now I just want to fondle my steering wheel because it just feels better. That layer of grease, grime, oils, all that stuff is gone. Now you just continue around and do the rest of it. Now, what you can do is, obviously there's details to the steering wheel. So for example, you've got controls. Yes, you need to be a little more sensitive around these things. These white markings are meant to last a lifetime, but these white markings will not necessarily stand to the same rigorous cleaning methods that I may use on other materials. Therefore, I will apply some additional caution. So for example, on something like this, I will just grab a corner, I will douse my cloth, and I will now finesse these things. And I don't have to be silly about it. I can be somewhat aggressive because I want to cut to the chase, and I will see the dirt that's picking up. So that avoids two things. One, it avoids me not doing unwanted damage to these controls or the markings. I'm not really worried about the markings because I know this chemical is not aggressive enough to remove those markings. But what will happen is if there's enough dirt, makeup, body lotions, and potions to accumulate on this and it sits there for years, that dirt mess will actually degrade and diminish, wear off, whatever, this markings or these markings, which means that once you clean the dirt off, some of those markings will be removed along with that dirt because the dirt has allowed to stay long enough and dwell over years of time where it will do some permanent damage. You just don't know until you know. So that's where, if I was a professional detailer, which, oh, by the way, I am, I tell my customers, if I see an excessively dirty steering wheel, I will say, hey, by the way, I'm gonna clean that. It's gonna be super clean. In fact, I'm gonna get it as clean as it can get. But because you've delayed the cleaning and some of that dirt will have stayed there for obviously a prolonged period of time, it may do some permanent damage. So I will be very delicate, but I just want you to know in advance, and that's what's called managing expectations. But what I'm seeing so far is that that's good right there. I don't have to overthink it. Now I'm just gonna go around and detail the areas that need that kind of specialized attention, which are these controls. And not all controls are created equal. So this is like a toggle switch that snaps back into place. It's got a plus, negative. So I will push this down, clean inside there, push it up, clean inside there, and then mop it up, both upside, downside. And then I know when Johnny customer gets in here and uses this, he's not gonna suddenly reveal like, oh, that darn Darren, he didn't detail underneath here. And there's another one over here. So I'll do the same there. This one is a rolling. No, it's not. It's also a toggle. I don't even know what you want to call that type of switch. Just know that every car truly is unique, and you'll be presented with challenges that are unique to the car. Now I'm going to come in and clean the hub. And you have to be mindful that in most cars, there's a horn that lives underneath here. So if you press too hard, you're going to scare yourself and you're going to cause the horn to go off in most cases, and it's going to be startling. And if you have an employee and your employee happens to be in front of the car working on the outside, you can be a douchebag and honk and scare him, which, not that I'm speaking from experience or anything. So in this case, we got a little something going on underneath this Ford emblem. I can just use my fingernail if I want and finesse it. Yeah, it's kind of like this accumulated dust. And I'm just mindful, like literally anything can become a tool. And this is what you'll learn as you do detailing or become fixated on the details of your car once you decide to finally kick down, take the effort to clean your steering wheel because it's kind of this good ripple effect where you're like, oh wow, this is really satisfying. And oh wow, it didn't take as much effort as I thought, thanks to Darren. So right here, I'm gonna say that I just improved this steering wheel to what I would call 91% for a very oddly specific percentage rate, 91%. Now I could spend another 5 minutes and finesse this to 100%. So if you're a professional detailer and a car owner, let's just say you really want to be committed, I highly recommend that you turn on the car and you spin this wheel around because it will allow you to examine things from a different perspective because you're able to rotate it. Now, if this did not rotate, even though it's round, it would matter less because it's only in the rotation, kind of like the wheels and tires, that they rotate and it will expose your inadequacies as a detailer. You don't want that to happen, and you may not want it to happen as a car owner. Therefore, I highly recommend you rotate this wheel, examine it from a different perspective. Just do it 180 degrees. Now I just remove this, everything's intact, or I should say, and well, actually I'll clarify. Everything, including the dirt and dust and grime, it remains intact and undisturbed, even though you just now detailed your steering wheel. And oh my gosh, it feels good, which of course is going to lead into a discussion of, oh, I have a leather wrapped steering wheel, which by the way, this car does have leather in it, and I can tell this right here is leather. So then it becomes like, oh, do I need to condition my leather? Well, my answer is no. This leather is coated. It has a clear protective coating to it. You can't see it, but I promise you it's there. That's the good news. It makes everything easier in your life. Durability is increased versus uncoated leather. Cleaning is easier. Dirt does not cling to it as easily as uncoated leather. So it's just better. So the point is you're not actually conditioning or dressing a natural material. Yeah, it's leather, it's natural, but it's been coated with a synthetic coating, which means, in my opinion, that kind of renders most dedicated leather conditioners irrelevant. But if you want to dress it, you're only going to need to dress it for 2 reasons, in my opinion. And I'm speaking from 35 years of experience. I have never used dressing as a rule to condition materials because I know if I just clean the dirt off, it's good to go. And I have taken care of cars for years at a time, and I've detailed them anywhere from as often as twice a week, once a month, every 3 months, once a year, for long sustained periods of time so I can verify my results, where that is not going to damage it. These repeated cleaners are all based on the kind of dirt I'm responding to. For example, if my hands were heavily soiled in motor oil, I'm going to use a more aggressive cleaner. Well, when I wake up first in the morning and let's say I want to wash my hands, guess what they're not covered in? Yes, heavy layers of motor oil. Therefore, I can just use basic water to clean my hands. So you just respond accordingly. So people like to push things to extreme to illustrate their point, which just confuses everyone in the process. Point is dressing or conditioning, you're only going to need to do it for 2 reasons. One, it will change the way your steering wheel feels based on the product that you choose. It will also change the appearance of it. It might create a high luster, a high shine, or it might create a low luster. That's really just a preferential moment. Only you can decide. What Darren's telling you is that it's not a requirement. What I believe is a real requirement is just keeping your steering wheel clean. So at this point, now that your steering wheel is basically clean, what requires moving forward, if you did it consistently without kicking that can down the road, is you just spray this product on a cloth and now you just give it a gentle wipe. That could be once a week, could be once a month. The point is, see, nothing came off. Why? Because it's clean. And that's all I did. I just removed the what you would call now superficial oils of normal use of your car. And by the way, you want to know a really good trick? Wash your hands, especially if you're a woman, especially if you've caked on makeup and lotions all of your hands. Wash your hands first. That way you don't transfer that to your steering wheel repeatedly, and therefore it can't build up repeatedly. Okay, hope you learned something. If you have, let me know in the description box. At a minimum, give it a thumbs up on the way out, and maybe at a less of a minimum, you could subscribe to the station if you so choose. Your world, do what you want. I'll see you on the next video.